December 18th, 1944. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Private Tommy Novak, 19 years old, from Gary, Indiana, was sitting in a foxhole trying not to die. Not from the Germans, from the cold. His boots had frozen to his feet sometime during the night. He couldn't feel his toes. The last man in his platoon who tried to pull his boots off, a kid named Walters from Ohio, the skin came off with the leather. Walters screamed so loud the sergeant had to cover his mouth. The Germans were 200 yards away. Novak's hands were shaking. He'd been trying to write a letter to his mother. Had the paper on his knee, pencil in his fist, but the letters came out jagged, unreadable. He gave up after 2 lines. There was no fire, couldn't light one. German artillery had forward observers everywhere. One wisp of smoke and an 88mm shell would land right in your lap. So the men sat in darkness, eating frozen sea rations out of frozen cans, breathing into their hands, waiting for morning. 5 miles behind the front line, hidden behind a grove of trees, smoke was rising from a French chateau. 5 chimneys, every window lit. Warm golden light spilling into the frozen darkness. Music, American jazz, Glenn Miller, laughter, the clink of glasses. 12 American senior officers were sitting around a dining table, roasted beef on porcelain plates, wine in crystal glasses, silk sheets waiting upstairs. Novak didn't know about the chateau. Neither did any of the 3,000 men freezing in foxholes across that sector. But General George S. Patton was about to find it. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe. We tell the World War II stories about leadership, consequences, and the moments that separated real commanders from men who just wore the rank. The Battle of the Bulge had begun 2 days earlier, Hitler's last gamble. Over 250,000 German soldiers smashing through Allied lines in the Ardennes. Nobody expected it. Allied intelligence had missed every sign. The weather was the worst in 50 years. Snow 3 feet deep, wind cutting through every layer of clothing. American infantrymen were living in foxholes dug into ground so frozen it took 4 men with pickaxes 2 hours to make a hole. Frostbite was epidemic. Soldiers woke up unable to feel their feet. Medics performed field amputations with nothing but morphine and a knife. Trench foot turned men's feet black. The smell was distinctive, sweet and rotten. Medics could diagnose it from 10 feet away. The men couldn't light fires. They had fuel, they had matches, everything they needed to survive the night. But any flame meant German shells. The price of warmth was death. So they ate cold, frozen canned meat, frozen beans. Some men tried to thaw cans against their bodies, under their shirts. It took hours. The food was still cold when they ate it. That was the reality for everyone, officers and enlisted alike. That was the rule, the unwritten, unbreakable rule of the American Army. Officers share the suffering. That was the theory. Patton was conducting one of his surprise inspections. No advance warning, no scheduled visits, just show up in the middle of the night and see the truth. His commanders feared these visits more than they feared the Germans. He'd relieved officers on the spot for less than what he was about to find. His driver, Sergeant John Mims, took a wrong turn. A narrow country road, dark, unpaved. They were about to turn around when Patton saw smoke, multiple columns, rising against the stars. "What's that?" "Don't know, sir, not on the map." "Drive toward it." The road curved through bare winter trees, and there it was, a French chateau, 3 stories of pale stone, every window lit, 5 chimneys pouring smoke, the sound of music and laughter drifting across the courtyard. Patton got out, walked to the front door. It wasn't locked. The heat hit him like a wall. After hours in the frozen night, he walked into a building heated like a luxury hotel. Crystal chandelier overhead, marble floors, fireplaces roaring in multiple rooms. He followed the sound of voices to the dining room. 12 officers, his officers, sitting around a long oak table. Porcelain plates, silver flatware, crystal wine glasses, roasted beef, fresh bread, camembert. A cigar smoldering in an ashtray. Benny Goodman playing on a phonograph in the corner. One of them looked up, saw the 4 stars, saw the ivory-handled revolvers. The room went silent. Instantly. Every fork stopped. A colonel stood up, tried to salvage it. "General Patton, sir, we weren't expecting you. We're using this facility as a temporary coordination headquarters for..." Patton held up one hand. The colonel stopped talking. Patton walked in slowly, looked at the fireplace, the wine bottles, the food. He stopped at the table, picked up a piece of bread, fresh, soft. Still warm, he put it down, looked at the colonel. "Where are your men?" "Sir? Your men, the soldiers you command. Where are they sleeping tonight?" "In foxholes, sir. Standard combat deployment. How cold is it outside?" "I'm not certain of the exact 12 degrees. I just came from your sector. I spent 40 minutes there. Your men are in holes in the ground. No heat, no shelter, eating frozen rations because lighting a match means dying." The room was absolutely silent. "One of your privates, name of Novak, 19 years old. His boots are frozen to his feet. The medic thinks he'll lose 3 toes. He was trying to write a letter to his mother, but his hands were shaking so bad he couldn't hold the pencil." Patton made eye contact with each officer, one by one. "And you're here, eating roast beef, drinking Bordeaux, listening to music, 5 miles from boys who are freezing to death." A major tried to speak. "Sir, officers require adequate rest to effectively command..." Patton's voice cut through the room. Not a shout, colder than a shout. "You think you're commanding? You think leadership happens from a French palace 5 miles behind the line?" He pointed toward the windows, toward the darkness. "Your men know about this place. Enlisted men always know where the officers are sleeping. They know you're warm while they freeze. They know you're eating fresh bread while they chew ice. And every one of them is deciding right now whether you're worth following tomorrow." The colonel tried again. "Sir, there's always been a distinction between officer and enlisted quarters. It's necessary for maintaining..." "Maintaining what? The illusion that you're better than them?" Nobody answered. "Here's what's going to happen. You have 10 minutes to gather your combat pack. Helmet, weapon, canteen. You will march to the front line. You will dig a foxhole next to your men, and you will stay there until I personally relieve you." A lieutenant colonel objected. "Sir, it's 3 in the morning. It's a 5-mile march in sub-zero. Your men did it yesterday, in combat boots, carrying 60 pounds of gear, under fire. You'll manage 5 miles in the quiet." Patton looked at his watch. 9 minutes. The officers scrambled, grabbing coats, looking for boots, wine glasses spilling, a plate crashed on the marble floor. But Patton wasn't finished. "Colonel," the senior officer stopped. "This building becomes a field hospital at 0600. Your dining room will be an operating theater. Your bedrooms will be recovery wards. The men losing toes to frostbite tonight will recover in your silk sheets." The colonel nodded, couldn't speak. "If I ever find you more than 100 yards from your men again, you'll be counting blankets in a supply depot in Liverpool. Are we clear?" "Yes, sir. Crystal clear, sir." Within 10 minutes, the chateau was empty. 12 officers marching into the frozen night. Patton walked through the building, room by room. Every bedroom had a fire going, clean linens. One room had a portable bathtub. Another had a record player with 40 American jazz records. In the kitchen, enough food to feed a company for a week. Wine, cheese, fresh eggs, real coffee. He had everything inventoried. The food would go to the front line, the wine destroyed. The warm rooms would stay for the wounded. Then he sat down at a desk and wrote a message, 7 sentences, sent by courier to every battalion commander in the 3rd Army before sunrise. Any officer found living in comfort while his men suffer will be relieved of command immediately. Rank is not a privilege, it is a burden. If you cannot carry that burden alongside the men who carry it for you, I will find someone who can. The message hit the 3rd Army like a bomb. By morning, every officer knew about the chateau. Officers who'd been sleeping in farmhouses moved to the field. Foxholes that had been dug for enlisted soldiers suddenly had colonels and majors sitting in them. And something unexpected happened. Morale improved. Not because conditions got better, they didn't. It was still freezing. Men were still getting frostbite. The Battle of the Bulge would rage for another month, but the men fought harder, trusted their officers more, because now they could see them, right there, in the next foxhole, suffering with them. Private Novak ended up in the chateau, not as a guest, as a patient. He was one of the first soldiers admitted when the medical trucks arrived at dawn. His boots had to be cut off. He lost 3 toes on his right foot. He recovered in an upstairs bedroom, in a real bed, under silk sheets, a fire in the fireplace. He slept 14 hours straight. When he woke up, he thought he was dead, and this was heaven. He finished the letter to his mother that afternoon. His hands were steady. The room was warm. He didn't mention the chateau, just told her he was okay. Years later, a sergeant from the colonel's regiment, Frank Kowalski from Pittsburgh, gave an interview. He'd been in one of those foxholes the night Patton visited. Before the chateau, we figured all officers were the same. Warm beds, hot food, safe jobs. After? Different. Our captain showed up in the foxhole the next morning, Captain Whitfield, quiet guy. He crawled in next to me and said, "Move over, Sergeant, I'm staying." Kowalski paused. He stayed 3 weeks, ate what we ate, froze when we froze, lost 2 toes, never complained. That's when I understood what Patton was talking about. When your officer is in the hole with you, losing his toes next to yours, you know he means it, and you'll follow that man anywhere. The colonel who'd been at the chateau never spoke about it publicly. In a private memoir from 1964, he wrote one paragraph. On the night of December 18th, 1944, I received the most important lesson of my military career. I had forgotten that the men under my command were not abstractions on a map. They were boys from Indiana and Tennessee, freezing in holes, and I was drinking wine. Patton reminded me. He did not shout. He simply told me where my men were and what they were enduring, and then he asked me where I was. I had no answer. If you had been an officer that night, where would you have been? In the chateau with the wine and the fire, or in the foxhole with your men? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories about what real leadership looks like when everything is on the line,